I want to come at this from the point of view of school improvement. We've talked about kids, and I think schools are where kids learn, so it's really important to think about what's the impact of NECAP on teaching and learning in the schools. I come at this from about 10 years of running school improvement visits, SALT visits, and I would spend a week in a school. I've been in more schools in more districts than I think anybody ever ought to have been. And I've seen more classes than you can imagine. And I can tell you almost immediately when I go into a classroom whether I think it's going to be a good class or a bad class. The hallmark of a class that is not good is a class where there's a teacher in front of the room. The kids are all at their desks. The desks are in rows. The teacher is telling the kids stuff about things they don't care about or don't know about or have very little relationship to. And you can see them dutifully taking notes or not. And you know they'll be quizzed on what the teacher is saying. And that is the learning process, whether they learn that or not. Folks, the NECAP is very like that quiz that you get at the end of those lectures. The good classes that I went into, kids tended not to sit in rows. The teacher certainly wasn't in the front of the room. Kids were talking to each other. They were doing projects that they were interested in and often had originated in. They were editing, they were researching, they were communicating with each other. It was an entirely different environment. Now think about what happens when you make the NECAP a graduation requirement. There'll be very little tolerance in the educational system for that kind of class. Why? If you look at the NECAP, every single multiple choice question by definition has to either be right or wrong. In the kind of classes that I was talking about, nothing is either completely right or wrong. In fact, finding things that are sort of right and sort of wrong is what pushes you into learning more, which pushes you into asking the next question, which pushes you into your next step of learning. So if you're in an environment where one of the key judgments is whether you can answer a whole bunch of right and wrong questions quickly, I know this, I took the NECAP test, you are going to be taking a system and stripping out all the potential for innovation, for students finding things that they like, for students building on their own individual differences and learning in ways that will create a society that is multidimensional and vibrant. So that's, to me, the stakes. That's really part of what matters. And so when I look at the kind of rationale for giving the NECAP, one is, well, we got to make it count. It's got to be a graduation requirement, because if we don't, kids won't take it seriously and they won't do well. And you can sort of buy that. Yeah, I know kids like that. But then if you think about it twice, yeah, there are a few kids that maybe blow it off, but there are a lot of kids that take it pretty seriously and don't do well. And so, and you think about, well, who are those kids? We've heard about them at the table tonight. Who we haven't heard about very much are the urban kids. These are kids who live in environments that are very difficult, make it very difficult to focus on school. It's certainly not your primary focus. You come to school, you sit, you do your best, you listen, you think, but there are a lot of things in your life besides school. Your problem is not motivation. Your problem is not that whether you take the NECAP seriously or not. It's a very different set of problems. So I really resent people saying, these kids don't take the NECAP seriously, and that's why it's got to count for graduation. They just don't understand the urban learner. I want to stop because I want you to have a chance to talk, but the thing I also want to, in terms of the urban learner, who I'm sort of advocating for now, I've been reading some very disturbing things lately. I just went on the ACI website. Guess who's in the ACI? Half of the people in the ACI do not have a high school diploma or a GED. So what does that say about a policy that's going to fail more kids? It's going to make it harder for more kids to graduate. all those kids who don't graduate are going to be prime candidates for that pipeline into prison. And I just read another research study that talked about the impact. This was a big, full-scale labor study in all the states that had graduation requirement, exit exams. And they're finding that overall, graduation exit requirements don't have much impact on anything. The graduation rate, the employment rate, wages, but they do have a robust impact on incarceration rates. They raise the incarceration rate about 12%. So folks, I think this is something we really should not rush into. There are many more reasons that have been talked about tonight for why we shouldn't rush into it, and they all deserve adequate discussion, research, back and forth. I want our classroom to be much more like a good classroom in the school, our public debate, our public forum, than it is in those bad ones where you get told what to think.